All right, so if you remember last time, we actually went ahead and rendered out this animation. It looks like this. And I'm just playing this through VLC, but you can see we have our bouncing ball animation that we're going to use to composite into this scene here, which I have in videos. Now, for your homework assignment, what you'll do is you'll go to the dollar store and get some green paper or purple paper. Now, later, generally, you want to get some sort of image reflection. It's just for now, because of this video, to make it easier, we're going to use some green screen footage to overlay it. But if you're filming in the real world, it's not too bad if you have a reflection of the person in there because we can multiply that together or screen it. But again, for this tutorial, we're just going to work with some green screen stuff. And again, for your homework assignment, you're going to create your own green screen image by getting green paper from the dollar store and taping it to your monitor screen. All right, so let me close this out and let's go to Blender, and let's go ahead and convert this movie file here to a PNG sequence, which is what we're going to need. All right, so what I want to do is go to File, and I'm going to go to New, and I'm just going to create a new general project. And I can go ahead and save this, it's fine. And so here I am in a new general project. Don't worry about any of this other stuff because you can jump back and forth and all that good stuff. So you can leave this in there or delete it. We're not really going to need it. But if you go down here, if you hit this plus sign, a lot of people don't know that Blender is more than just a 3D animation program. It's used for other things like video editing and stuff like that. Now, I've worked at Amazon and Netflix and a lot of these different game studios. And what's really cool is they allow you to use Blender. They don't really care. They're more interested in the final quality of the product, the final product quality, than anything. So I love Blender. I use it, try to use it as much as I can. I don't know every hotkey or shortcut, but so forgive me if there's a better way of doing it. But overall, I know a pretty good way of getting things done. So let me know if you see anything cooler. So anyway, under video editing here, we're going to go down to video editing, and this brings up our video editing screen, which is really cool. Now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to add my movie clip, the one of the girl typing, inside of here and convert it. So let's go to Add and then Movie. And inside of the videos folder for me, I have the person working on video clip. Now, I tend to keep all my video stuff in my computer on my videos folder. I am a glutton where I throw things on the desktop, but just more of a cautionary thing. Just, try to be as clean as possible. Now, we don't have any sound in this clip, so we could turn that off. It really doesn't matter. And you'll notice it says start frame, channel frame. You could leave all this the same, and then I just usually leave it as scale to fit. So there is no sound in this clip, but we'll just leave it on. But just understand that, when you're importing it, if you have a pretty slower computer, you can remove that sort of thing. So I'm going to hit Add Move Strip, and you can see now that we have it in here. I can cycle between it. I can spacebar and watch it. But in order to make it a little bit easier to work with, like I said, I want to convert it to PNG files. Now, you can see here that if we go all the way to the end here, we have roughly 191 frames. Now, our animation of our bouncing ball, we only rendered it at 120 frames, so we don't need that extra footage. So I'm going to just change this to 120, and I'm going to change the end frame here from 250 to 120, and so that's going to clip that for us. All right, so let's shrink this down a little bit, and you'll see here under this output, go ahead and click on that, and we're going to stay at 1920 by 1080, which is the resolution. And then also, for the output folder here, remember we went to videos here, and then we have this this person working on computers folder. Now, I believe we made this movie folder in here, so we might just keep it in here. But I'm going to make another folder in here and just call it IS for image sequence. The reason for that is because it's going to produce 120 different images, and we don't want those all over the folder. So it's good to have it contained within its own folder. Now, I'm going to name this girl working on computer _ plate. Now, plate is short for background plate, which is like in a lot of movies you have the background plate. Now I'm going to put another underscore here, and what that does is as this renders out the image sequence, it's going to automatically add numbers behind it to keep it in sequence. So I'm going to go ahead and accept here. Now you'll notice too, it has RGBA. We don't have an alpha, so I'm going to hit RGB here, and then I'm going to turn the compression all the way down because we want full frames here. And then I'm just going to go to render, and I'm going to click on render animation, or you can hit Control F12. And it should go relatively quickly, depending on your computer, because we really only have 120 frames. And yeah, it looks good. Now, if we go back into our folder, let's go here, and let's go to video, and then we go to our movie folder. You can see now we have the image sequence of all of our images of our person working. All right, let's close that out, and let's go back inside of here. And now we're going to go click on compositing here. And this is where we're actually going to work on our actual compositing of our ball movie with that clip. So I'm going to go ahead and click on use nodes. And we're not using render layers. Render layers are if we are working with other 3D objects, which we're actually going to do later with a footage of you. But right now we're just kind of learning how to composite. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. And I'm going to hit Shift and A. And I'm going to go ahead and type movie. You can also find it if you right click and you go to add input and you type in movie here, like movie clip. We can go this way. And this would be, for example, the movie clip of our ball bouncing. So you could see that it actually puts an image of the movie, like a frame from the movie clip there, showing that that's our movie clip. Now, if we want to see something in the background, we can hit, Shift A, and we could just type in view. And this is like a viewer, and this will allow us to see, as we're tying these nodes together, like what we, it allows us to see, whatever is in that shot. So we can also highlight that to break, like select the little wire and drag it off to break the connection. Now, actually, something that might be cool that we can do before this is, I'm going to go ahead and delete these out, is I'm going to hit the plus sign here, and I'm going to go to VFX, and I'm going to go to motion tracking. Now, motion tracking is where we're actually going to track the corners of that screen of that girl working on the computer. So let's go ahead and open the image sequence that we just made. So go ahead and hit open, go to videos, and then inside of movie here, IS, go ahead and hit Control A to select all of these files. I believe it works just with if you select the first frame. I don't think it really matters if you select all of the frames, but go ahead and select this first frame and then hit open clip. And there's our clip. And now I can actually scrub through this. Let me move this a little bit so you could see it. We can actually scrub through from 0 all the way to 120 frames so we could see her working there. Now what we want to do is we want to track the corners of this screen. Now, by default, I'm going to go ahead and hit N to hide this, but mine was open. And you can see there's footage, and then there's a panel here called tracking. It says no active tracking. If I hold Control and I left click on the corner of the screen, you'll see that this tracking window opens, and I can actually move that verbatim to the corner here. So I'm going to go just outside of that corner because remember in the example that I showed you, we had some green showing through. I don't mind if the image of my ball bouncing is a little bit bigger than the green area, that's okay. So I'm holding my middle mouse to click, middle mouse to pan here. I'm going to hold Control, click again, just kind of move this. And I'm just tracking, I'm putting tracking markers on the corner of the screen. And what's going to happen here is, and if you want to adjust these again, you can like left click on this. And so what's happening here is it's going to create a plate for me that I have to adjust to put the bouncing ball movie onto the screen. Now that we have those in there, let's go ahead and hit set scene frame, and that's going to make sure that it sets it to 120 and that we prefetch the footage. And that's just resetting all of those images that are in there. Now you'll notice that we haven't done any tracking. Like I set those trackers on frame 0. So let's go ahead, or frame 1 rather. So let's type a 1 here. And they're set up there, but as we move, let me go ahead and adjust this too, so we're really just looking at the timeline that we need. But as I move from 1, you'll see they slide, and I want them to track that area or those corners of that screen. So let's kind of get this a little bit closer. Another thing that's bothering me is the color is looking a little washed out. So if we go here to our render properties, and we go down to color management, you can see it's set to sRGB. And now yours might be set to something like Filmic, and you could see it looks a little washed out. Mine is set to standard, which kind of gives it the original color from the shot. Now, mine was set by default when I opened this up because I've done this before. So you want to double check that. Now, something else, you remember we rendered out our bouncing ball at 30 frames a second? Well, under output here, I want to make sure that my frame rate is roughly the same. So here's 29.97 or 30, so that now when I watch this sequence, it runs at the same rate as my bouncing ball that was rendered out. We could change it to 24 if we rendered out our bouncing ball to 24, but just be conscious of that. Now, to give myself a better match, I'm going to change it from keyframe so that it's checking the previous frame as it's going in. And under prepass here, I want to do normalize, and that's going to normalize the speed and consistency of the footage. All right, so something else to take note is if I hit Alt and S on each one of these, you can see that this is the size, our tracking size. So I tend to go a little bit just outside of that area so that it detects just the black as well as the corner there. So as I click on that, I try to go a little bit outside, just encompassing that corner. Now you can adjust the size as you create the marker by changing this pattern size here. So let me actually show you that. So I'm going to delete this one. And let's say we do our search size to, let's say 20. Now when I control click on this, notice how small the search size is. That's this outside box here. So just be conscious of that. And then when you click, you can see that it automatically sets all of them to 20. So, and you can adjust them, but it just makes it a little bit easier. Oops. So let's move this just outside of here, like I was saying. And hopefully it doesn't, because I'm that far out from the green, it does detect that differentiation there. Let's see how that does it. So if I go ahead and hit Control T here, it went ahead and it tracked all of those markers. Now you notice that it's moving way outside of here. It's leaving that area. So I might have to decrease that search size. So do you see how on this marker here, it's really shifting all over the place? And that's not what we want. We want it to stay pretty stagnant in place. So I'm going to actually decrease my search size to just that area where that corner is. Same thing with this one, because this one seems to be really losing its sense of where it's at. And then I'm going to hit Control T again to retrack that. And now you could see they stay pretty standard, but this one is shifting. This one down at the corner, down here, notice that it shifts off. And the reason for that is we want that to stay static to the corner here. So you could actually do another thing where you just kind of move it back in place, and then you hit Control T again, and it'll retrack it. And you can see it stayed a little bit better that time. But all I'm going to do now is I'm going to decrease the search size a little bit better here, move it outside here, and hit Control T again. Oops, looks like I zoomed in. The Control Space lets you zoom in. So let's hit Control T again to let that research. And yeah, that's a lot better, except for this guy. This one is really is having some issues staying on track. So let's decrease that just a little bit. And let's move it just to the corner there. And I'm going to hit Control T. Actually, I'm just going to hit A on all of them and just let them all retrack. So hit Control T again. And you can see, there we go. It's a lot more refined. And if you look at this red here, that's the amount of movement it's had since it started. And that's okay because the shot is moving. So that's really how you clean up your tracking. So if I hit spacebar here just to kind of watch this, or hit play, you can see those stay pretty well on there. That's looking pretty good. And that's what you want. You want it to be really tracked to that level of accuracy. And like I showed you before, you can go in there and fine tune it by like moving it on each individual one, hitting Control T to track it. All right, so under solve here, this is where we're going to create the plane that our images is going to sit on. So I'm going to go ahead and click on plane track here, create plane track. Now I want to hit A, actually have all three selected, then hit create plane track. Now notice that it's not sitting directly on that screen, but it's tracking there. What you want to do is zoom in on each corner and just left click and just drag that and just place it just outside of that green area a little bit. So something like this. Something like that, and then this. And now this is going to actually represent the screen that we're going to place our footage on. So go ahead and press play to kind of look at that. That looks pretty good to me. I want to avoid that ugliness of the example that I showed you earlier, that I had made for you earlier, where it wasn't sitting right and we were seeing a little bit of the green area. All right, so go ahead and save your scene. And then what we want to do now is we actually want to go ahead and composite in the footage, the bouncing ball footage that we made from our animation. So again, just we have our compositing here. Go ahead and hit use node. For me, if you're using a fresh scene, we already deleted them out. So you can go ahead and hit Shift A and type in composite and bring back that compositing node. And then go ahead and hit Shift A again and type in movie. Now what we're going to be selecting is, you don't want to select open on this. We're going to click this little guy here and we're just going to select girl working on computer plate. So that's our girl who's, you know, this is the shot of our, from our actual scene of those PNG files. And remember what I mentioned before, if we add a view node, I can actually wire this image into here and then we can see it in our scene here, our girl working. Now the hard part about this is it's not updating in real time. And that's okay because we can scrub through. All right, so I'm gonna hit Shift A again and I'm gonna type movie and I'm gonna add a movie clip here. And I'm gonna go ahead and click open, go to videos here, and then I'm gonna go to movie and I wanna select my bouncing ball movie here. Okay. All right, now hit Shift A and go ahead and type in alpha. Now this, not set alpha, but alpha overload. So here we have alpha over. Now this is what we're going to be using. Now it's in order. So for example, if I link this in here as image and then I take this one down here, you're not going to see anything. And the reason for that is because this is our bottom. We want this to be this on top. And if we tie that into the viewer here, you could see that it put our bouncing ball image. Here's our bouncing ball image on top. And then we set this at the bottom. So you really want to make sure that these are wired like this. Now, the other thing is we actually need to set the node to actually make it appear on the screen. So actually this should be at the bottom, sorry. And then this should be at the top because we want this to be sitting on top of the other image. The problem is this image here of the ball bouncing is not set to that plate that we created earlier. So do you remember that we want to track? So I'm going to go ahead and hit Shift A and I'm going to add a plane track deform. Go ahead and click this. I'm going to wire this image here. And then if you remember, we created that plane. And now you could see, let's see, we added that here. Oops. And then we have to set some stuff up. So in here, we need to select the clip that we want. So we want to do the bouncing ball movie. And then here, we're going to select the camera. And then here, we're going to select the plane track deform, or our plane track. Now, oh, actually, you know what? We need to select the, let me click this again. We need to actually select the girl working on the computer plate. Sorry, because that's the one that has our plane tracker. And now you can see we have this wired at the bottom and then this at top. And as we click through, we should be able to see our ball bouncing on the screen. And that plane tracks the ball bouncing. All right, so let's go ahead and, that looks pretty good. And let's wire this image into both the compositor as well as the viewer. So the composite is what's going to give us our final composite. Our viewer here is just giving us what we see in the screen here. So make sure to wire that both. You can actually, like this is just so we could see it in the view. And so that looks pretty good to me. Let's go ahead and go to render and render a single image here. And let's see. See why this is not showing up. So as crazy as this sounds, in order to get it to work for some reason, I just closed out the program and reopened it and then reloaded the file. But you can see here now when I go to render image, it renders out the image. So if I go here and do render animation, let's see, you're going to get a little bit of this weirdness. But here's our new animation sequence. Actually, one second. Let me go ahead and stop this. Let me show you briefly the video quality I set while I was trying to figure out why that wasn't showing up. But so under output here, I did output here. I changed it to, let's go ahead and just do videos again, and then movie, set it to this folder, and then MPEG, and then quality is, I just went to container QuickTime. And let's see, for encode, that's under encoding. So if you go to the output section, you go expand encoding, file format, MPEG, I selected QuickTime like last time. You could do lossless. I just say do high quality because you're going to have to submit this on your website and you're going to upload it to YouTube. And then coding speed, good. I'm going to click down here and hold control and hit F12 to render out that whole sequence of 120 frames. Now, as it's doing that off to the side here, I'm going to go ahead and just navigate to that videos folder and kind of queue this up so that we can see this, the final footage of the girl typing on the bouncing ball. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and pause this. All right, that went ahead and it's done rendering now. So let's go ahead and take a look at our masterpiece. And I like watching it in VLC, and you can see here we did a little bit better job of cleaning up that edge. So there's no green screen, and it looks like she's programming that bouncing ball that we animated in the last tutorial. All right, that's it for this one. And in next, your assignment essentially for the next class is going to be videoing yourself on your iPhone or whatever and doing this bouncing ball with it.